in RLT, we are teachers. We have things to say, but the goal is joy. I work with people, they start off being pretty miserable, and the ones that work wind up being quite transformed and ridiculously happy compared to what they were when they first came in. This is not some moral exercise. You go to the gym and get bigger biceps. There's a point. The point is happiness. If you know anything about me, you know that I tell stories. And I tell stories for a reason. I self-disclose. My metaphors were like a great Indian singer. The only instrument you have is your own body. How we use ourselves will determine our part. Detachment from outcomes, serenity prayer, we only do our best, but it will determine our part of how things go, how firm we are, how soft we are, how we are compassionate, how we are warning, how we are the voice of doom, how we are the voice of hope, what we offer, what we choose to attend to, how we frame things, the bloody questions that we ask. These are all instruments. And then there are more subtle instruments, our energy, the emotional state we're in, how we feel about the person we're speaking to, what we want from them. All of it is perceived, and that's not because we're in a hothouse transference-based therapeutic relationship. It's because all of it's perceived all the time by everybody all the time. We human beings pick up cues from each other all day long. So you're your instrument. So what are we using the instrument for? In RLT, you often hear me say, I believe that a therapist is a moralist in the Greek sense of the word, not about what's right or wrong, but in the classic Greek sense of the word, morality was a subset of philosophy, and it was that subset of philosophy focusing on how one should live one's life to make a good and happy life. That's therapy. And as such, in RLT, we are teachers. We have things to say, but the goal is joy. I work with people, and they start off being pretty miserable, and the ones that work wind up being quite transformed and ridiculously happy compared to what they were when they first came in. And I left my bad marriage, and I'm now with somebody new, and they're wonderful, and I'm wonderful, and I'm not self-medicating, and I'm not flying into rages. I'm letting in love, and my career's going great. I'm fond of saying in those situations, that's what this is for. It's for joy. The litmus test is joy. This is not some moral exercise. You go to the gym and get bigger biceps. There's a point. The point is happiness. And I'm with my beloved Carol Gilligan. It's really radical. Connection is joyful. Intimacy is joyful. And you all understand the very important distinction in RLT, the distinction between gratification and relational joy. And, I have all these high rollers that come in all the time, and they're up to their eyeballs in gratification. Surgically enhanced wives and mistresses and surgically enhanced airplanes, and they're still miserable. They have lived their lives based on gratification. Our culture is based on gratification. Our culture has pretty much lost the wisdom of relational joy. And relational joy is the deeper down pleasure of just being there and being connected. And sometimes the connection is gratifying, and sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but it's wonderful to be there. But I have to teach a lot of the people that I work with the concept of relational joy. And that's what we sell, folks, in RLT. What we sell is relational joy. We talk about leverage, and when we first learn leverage, everybody, including me, when I first developed it, focuses on negative leverage. These are the negative consequences of not changing. The positive leverage is I can teach you about intimacy. I can open your heart. I can teach you how to love and be loved. That's what's curative in RLT. And I've been talking like this for 40 years, and the research has finally caught up with me. We are born to be relational. Relational connection to ourselves and others is what the species is designed for. It is the only thing that will gratify us. It keeps us physically healthy, 10-year longer life, and mentally healthy, and is satisfied. And it's rare in this culture. The other way of taking a look at how our use of self is doing is keeping an eye on the more the more. If we're working with a system, couple, work team, parent, child, wherever, if the more is moving, your therapy is moving. If the more is not moving, everybody's having a grand old time, but not doing anything. Progress means shifting in the more. I just wrote a piece. It's on the Psychotherapy Networker website now. You can all get it, called The Limits of Trauma Work. I highly recommend it. I take on the overreach of trauma work these days. Trauma work does not cure addictions. Trauma work does not deal with grandiose behaviors. Trauma work does not help somebody not be a perpetrator. Trauma work does not equip people how to be intimate with each other. So we do all three. We do loving confrontation, deep trauma work, and skill building all together. And what are we doing when we're doing all those things? We are leading someone out of a state of disconnection into more connection. That's what we're doing. That means out of their adaptive child into their wise adult. It means out of their repetitive part of the more into something different. The more is run by the adaptive child. The something different is run by the wise adult. So we use ourselves as confronters, as healers, and as teachers. And our tone and style depends on what phase of the work we're in. When you're in data gathering, you're kind of soft and neutral. When you're in empowering the latent, you're kind of soft, but with a little embedded firmness. Well, what's going to happen if this doesn't work? Do you have a plan? And the art of empowering the latent is, it seems like you're drawing them out, but what you're drawing out is their dissatisfaction and their plans about it. So you're really gathering leverage, but you have to be very gentle about it, or the blatant will get really pissed off and say you're putting words in their mouth. So it's really key when you're doing that. You're drawing them out, but with a real focus. How unhappy are you? So when you get to level 3, there are, I think, 8 therapeutic stances, and one of them is amplification. And when you're when you're empowering the latent, it's all about amplification. You're amplifying their dissatisfaction, and you're amplifying their willingness to do something about it. You're amplifying the negative consequences for the grandiose partner. But you got to be cool. Not you saying it, them saying it. Now I'm going to say something you're all listening to. Everybody remarks on my pauses. And my pauses have several uses. One is I just don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And like most therapists have to cover that up and go chirp, 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 chirp while they're thinking. You can hear it. And I just get quiet because I don't know what I'm going to say next. And I'm listening. I'm listening for inspiration. Not to be too wah-wah about it, as Belinda would say, too woo-woo. So many beautiful moments with Pia. Pia used to do that. And I said to her once when I got to know her really well, I said, when you pause like that, and I noticed you kind of tilt your head, what are you doing? And she smiled at me and said, taking dictation. Inspiration passes through us if we listen to it. Take a moment. Take a moment and respect that and let it speak to you. So that's what's going on inside. But there's also theater. I'm quiet. You speed up and I'll get quiet. You start to escalate, I'll get quiet. Here's a brilliant move, which is from It's a form of circular questioning from the Milan school, a la Terry Real. It's their form, but I've used it to my own purposes. Melanie and Sasha, you're now a lesbian couple, and you're in my office. Melanie is screaming at Sasha. I can't believe and she's kind of screaming at me about her because I'm the referee, and she's like totally, right, a moment all couple therapists are afraid of. Here's a move, you ready? Hey, Sasha, is this the way she is at home? Is she this loud? Wow. How long does it usually go on? By my third question to Sasha about Melanie at home, guess what happens to Melanie? She shuts up and she starts listening. Try it. Works like a charm. Works like a charm. The Milan team came up with it. They're Italians. And Chiquin used to say brilliantly, people will stop to listen to how they're being spoken about. And it's narcissistically gratifying to be spoken about, whether it's good press or bad. You want to hear what's being said. That's using yourself as a disruptor, disrupting the pattern by literally throwing your weight somewhere else. And your question, the point of your inquiry. A million years ago, I tried to learn how to dive, and what the instructor told me is where your head goes, your body goes. So when you learn to dive, the first thing you learn is your head, how to move your head, because your body follows, because it's the heaviest part of you. And therapeutic is where your inquiry goes, the interview goes. The little boat of your inquiry is where you're steering the conversation. So some of this is you and the internal work, the energy. We go deep in RLT. And some of it can be taught technically, slow down, pauses, amplify feeling when you see it, slow them down. But that's all the external stuff I'm doing. The internal stuff that I'm doing, it may not be what I'm doing in that particular moment. It's the work I've done in my life, which is I can tolerate where you go. I've had the lived experience that turning and facing feelings is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And while it may be painful and upsetting, when I look at somebody and say, feelings will not hurt you, you may feel hurt, they may be painful, they may be terrifying, they may be overwhelming, they may be unbelievably intense and unbelievably unpleasant, but they won't hurt you. They're natural. They'll run their course. The waves will crash, and when they're done, and they subside, and you're fine. Running from feelings can kill you. And that's what most of us do in this culture.